Hey guys, Dan here from DansMillionaireCode. Today's guest is a great friend of mine. I was just on his podcast.
Yes, sir.
Super young dude who's accomplished a lot. And we met, I think, at one of our Cars and Coin events, right?
Yep, at John's house.
Yeah. So, but let me give everybody a quick background on you here. Founder and CEO of Haugen RV Group. He's also a speaker and host of Culture Camp podcast. Definitely go listen to his podcast. And he interviews other business owners out there, entrepreneurs like myself. So I was just on there. So I wanted him to come on here and tell you his story. His story is awesome. He has a passion for building great teams, and he loves to share that passion with everybody. So, dude.
Yep. Hey, thank you so much, dude. Appreciate it.
So tell me a little bit about what you're working on right now, or maybe your origin story. Let's just maybe start from the beginning and how you got to where you are.
Yeah, no, it's kind of a crazy story. I grew up in a very successful household. My dad was an entrepreneur. My mom was an entrepreneur. They did everything together, and that was a great experience. My dad was a speaker. He did a lot of things in the business world for since the 80s. So before I was born, I was born in '93, so I'm pretty young. But I grew up in a great environment, and I'm very, very grateful for that. I'm very blessed for that. When I was getting out of high school, I wanted to be like Dad and Mom, and they were in network marketing. They were really big in network marketing. And so what did I go do? I went and joined a network marketing company. Had a lot of fun doing that, and rose to the ranks. It was the highest rank in the company.
Wow.
And just had a blast at 19 years old. I mean, I was just out there just doing my thing, having a good time, and fell in love with the industry and like what it represented and what it meant and helping a lot of people. I started to fall more in love with the speaking side and the team building side than I really did the recruiting and like selling of products. And so I was not necessarily the best network marketer, but I just loved speaking and loved the whole team aspect of that. And in 2017, the company actually got sold.
Oh, wow.
And so my comp plan did not necessarily fit their comp plan. So although I had a high rank, I made no money.
Oh, that's nice.
And so I was young. I had spent a lot of money, not made maybe the best decisions, but I wasn't being dumb with stuff. I just bought a new house, I just got married, I had a baby on the way, and just life was happening. And so although I had still the high rank, dude, I had to call my best friend and ask him to just come sweep his floors because I was about to kind of lose everything.
Wow.
I had let him try to fool me around a little bit for a couple of months while I was just outflowing cash. Because in network marketing, you have to spend a lot of money to make money. So I still had all the spend because I had the persona of the top rank, but I had nothing coming in.
No, that's weird.
Yeah, and so I had made that phone call. I mean, I was sobbing, calling my best friend saying, dude, I just need a job. You're the only person I know that needs a job. But the crazy story about that is I had to keep it hidden because I had to keep this persona. He's the only person that I knew that would let me go in his warehouse and sweep his floors and just help him out for, I think he paid me $20 an hour.
What?
Yeah. And just to keep my mortgage. I'm like, dude, I just need to make a certain amount to just keep my mortgage floating, and then I can figure this out. And so I was doing that. So I was sleeping during the day. I would go do the network marketing during the evenings because people got home, and that's when people could do their meetings, and I'd go speak and do different things because I had this persona. I'd tuck my wife into bed, and I'd run over to the cabinet shop about midnight, build the cabinets, sweep the floors, do everything I possibly could through the night, and then I would make sure everything's ready for the installers to come load up the box truck and go. Then I'd go to the gym, and I'd go home and sleep.
Wow.
Dude, I was living this like extremely crazy, like almost like fake life, and it was starting to eat me alive because I'm speaking on stage about the dream and all this stuff with the company, but I was making no money. And so, in about the end of 2017, I got an opportunity in Salt Lake City to buy a dealership.
Oh, wow.
And it was actually my dad brought me the opportunity, and we had always wanted to work together, but I always kept him at an arm's length because I didn't want to be Randy Haugen's son. I wanted to be Jason Haugen.
That's right.
And so I wanted to be my own person. And so we partnered on that. He was an investor. He's like, I'll be invest if you run it. And I'm like, okay. And we started with one location while I was still doing the network marketing.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Never told anybody I was doing the dealerships. Never posted one post for almost 2 years about ever having a dealership.
Whoa.
Yeah. And so grew that, scaled that. I mean, the dealership. So in 2018, we had a decent year while I was still doing network marketing. And in 2019, good year. We still only had the one location. And the end of 2019, our company, the network marketing, got sold again.
Oh, geez.
And so I'm like, guys, I'm done. Boom. Like, we're over.
Yeah, it sounds like a pain.
They brought me to a meeting in San Diego and was like, hey, we want to schmooze you in this, and we're going to do this for you and that for you. And I'm like, guys, I'm done. I'm done with this industry. I'm going all in the RV industry. They're like, what are you talking about? Like, we have dealership. I'm going to go all in the RV industry. And then in 2020, in February, just a couple months after that, we bought our other 2 locations right when COVID hit.
Oh, shit.
And it was kind of crazy there for a minute. I called my dad, and I was like, hey, because he had been pretty disconnected. He's more of a board member. And I was like, hey, like, how does bankruptcy work? And he was like, what? Like, you're already going to claim bankruptcy? And I'm like, no. Like, I just want to know how it works. Like, like if I have 20 million in inventory or 5 million in inventory, how does that work? And my dad's like, honestly, it's kind of just the same creditor. It's just, more credit. He's like, it's just a digit, right? Like, you just fill out that, you just claim bankruptcy on 20 million instead of 5 million. It's kind of similar, like kind of the same. And I'm like, okay, well, I went and bought 20 million in inventory that day and bet everything on the RV industry. I had some inside words from some consultants that like, hey, this is going to be the best thing for the RV industry ever.
Wow.
And so I went and bought all the inventory. I was still in Camping World's inventory and Bish's inventory and everybody's inventory, putting it on lots and just crushing it. I mean, we sold, it was crazy.
Because people wanted to travel, right?
Yeah. I mean,
like
there was,
in an RV.
And you thought, essential business, whatever that meant back then. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, people wanted to get out. They were getting cabin fever. I mean, people that...
So you guys, like, people could come to your lot?
Oh, yeah. And the good thing about it is that purchase in February of 2020, and like March, like middle of March is when it just hit, and I think that's when the NBA shut down, and then everybody got real serious right after that. So we'd only been operating like a month and a half in this awkward, weird time before everything got shut down. And but they were in Logan, Utah, and Helper, Utah, very rural areas.
Oh, yeah.
Right? They don't... they're a little different,
They didn't care about COVID. Right?
No.
Whatever.
So what did everybody do from the valley? Go to those places and buy.
Wow. Luckily, awesome. Like our computer companies, at first, they're like, you have to shut. I'm like, well, everyone has to work from home on their computer.
Right.
And so then they're, okay, I guess you're essential.
Right. Like, and that is... Yeah, we have to have computers. Like, it's like we can't just stop the supply chain, because I'm sure that blew up, because everybody is wanting to, especially with Zoom and all these, like,
it was all Zoom. Yeah, it's crazy
for sure.
So it was a good time. You guys sold a lot.
Yeah, we sold a ton, man. Our 2018 we went from 12 million in sales to 2019 13 million in sales to 2020 60 million, 65 million in sales, and then in 21 103, and then in 22 we did 111.
Wow.
So we didn't acquire any more, really much more in 2022, but that's through acquisitions. But those 2 dealerships we bought went from 19 million in sales to 45 million in sales in 1 year.
Wow, that's good.
Yeah. Oh, it was amazing for us.
So what's the biggest growing pain with RV dealerships?
Honestly, like, you talk about a business, like, fundamental is cash flow.
Me too, man.
Yeah. I mean, RV dealerships are so capital intensive. We could have 5 or 6 million in used inventory at any given time, and that's 100% of our cash in that inventory. We don't get any financing on it. And so, if you made, let's use round numbers. If you made $10 million that year and you paid taxes on, because you have to make your financials look phenomenal for the flooring lines to be able to buy that inventory, kind of like, we call it a flooring line, but it's like a consignment, right? Like, we use a bank to pay the manufacturer, and then we pay interest while it's on our lot.
Yeah.
The banks, you have to have your financials looking sexy, or else they are not going to loan you the money. So you can't do a lot of tax, like, shelters or tax mitigation in the RV business.
You have to show you're making
money. Yeah. But if you show $10 million on your books, you pay taxes on that. Let's use round numbers, around $5 million in taxes. But you put $6 million in used inventory, you're upside down $1 million in cash.
Yeah.
After making $10 million. And so it's a tough game to play, a really tough game to play.
That's the number one thing for most inventory-intensive entrepreneurs,
Right.
Computers being the same thing. If we sell 10 million, 20 million in a purchase order to a company, we got to come up with we got to build those things, and they're usually on net terms, so they pay you 30, 60 days later.
Yeah.
And so that puts you on a cash crunch, and the banks don't like to loan. They don't want you to be too leveraged out.
Right.
So they'll floor some. They'll flow it for like half.
Right.
But man, if you have 20, 30 million rolling, that's a...
Yeah, and I have $55 million flooring line.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah, so it's all... And my interest rate went from 3% to 9.5%.
Yeah.
In 1 year.
Yeah. So it sucks right now.
Yeah.
So it's like, that really erodes margin.
So not only did sales crash, margins compressed, and interest rate shot to the roof. So, not only am I paying $1.5 million in interest, now I'm paying $5 million. Like, there goes my net profit plus margins compressed. We're giving away trailers and losing money right now because the 22 we have 2022s. They just announced the 24s are going to come out in July. So I'm like, now the banks are calling us saying, hey, we got to figure something out because we're not going to loan on new 2022s.
Yeah.
And it's like right now it's a great time to buy because everybody's just giving away their inventory trying to get ready for this 24s to come out.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a crazy time in our industry right now.
It is.
Yeah.
And tech as well. Tech has had a lot of layoffs and consolidation.
Right.
But really what we found is, at least in the tech field, things are pretty much going back almost pre-pandemic rev line numbers.
Right.
And so the pandemic is really more like free money time.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Not similar to us, but we're going to pre-pandemic sales numbers, and margins compressed a little bit, and they're going to rebound. I mean, because we're having to get off this old age inventory, but the interest rate's still there.
That's a major problem.
That was not there before COVID.
Yeah.
And I was talking to this guy, and he was like, my belief is about 90% of the dealerships would have went out of business if the interest rates were what they are now in 2019 before COVID.
Yeah.
Because the cash flow, and like we're not used to paying that much, flooring interest.
But I think the government's focus of raising interest rates is to cool down entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Quite a bit.
Yeah.
Slow the roll, make it so you're not hiring as many people. Those kind of things.
Which is just that's crazy.
Like,
it's sad because everybody like I don't know, and I'm not gonna ever claim that I'm the biggest economic guy. I'm learning more. I've just stuck my head so deep in this RV business that I'm oblivious to other things besides what it has to do with the RV industry. But this thing is it's almost like, I think it was you actually explained it the best, and I love your content because you're like, it's like a pendulum, right? You push it really hard one way, and you did this on a Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah.
They push it one way, and the economy is just booming and going crazy, and all these things are happening, and then it's like whoa, and they just push it way too hard the other way, and they're trying to come to this synergy. I actually use that a lot when I talk about the economy because it's pretty much my lesson for that I got.
It's a simple solution though, and maybe I'll share a little bit for you and for the entrepreneurs out there. What you want to look at is your operating costs in alignment with your revenue.
Right.
Right. And you also need to watch your margin levels, right?
Right.
So if your margin levels are static, let's say you're making 30, 40% or whatever it is, you need to really make sure you're holding that. Especially in this economy with inflation, the cost of employees and the cost of goods have gone up. So everyone's had to raise their prices a little bit, right?
Right.
On certain things. The big one though is like if you're running marketing really high with all this excess dollars, sometimes you don't want to kill it, but you need to taper that a little bit with revenue line.
Yep.
And it was funny because when we came out of the pandemic, some of our burn rates were running really high, like middle of pandemic type of marketing dollars, which is insane.
Right.
We were spending millions of dollars in marketing, and my CFO was like, "Hey, our numbers for this month are really red." I'm like, "Huh? Why is that?" They're like, "Well, revenue's here, and the marketing dollar's still here from when the revenue was right here."
Right.
And so that's where we pivoted and just adjusted that accordingly. Though.
Yeah, we call it expense ratios, and we base it off of our AI or available income or gross profit. So it's a expense ratio of that, and we have guidelines that kind of refer the RV industry. There's a consulting company out there that is probably the number one consulting company in power sports, RV dealerships, marine, agricultural. They consult over 2,000 dealerships. Wow. And so they have these expense ratios, and we send them our financials, and they send us back a 100-page report, like red, green, and yellow.
Oh, wow.
It's awesome.
That's nice.
Yeah, no, and we have meetings on like, hey, our expense ratios, let's adjust. Because it's all about that gross profit. Like, it sounds going to be into $100 million in sales, but if the profit margin on that or the gross profit margin is really small, we have to make our budget even smaller so there's something left over to, go buy a monster with.
I have friends in the tech industry that were doing billions of dollars in sales and losing 20, 30 million a quarter.
Jeez.
And it's kind of crazy in that I think a lot of entrepreneurs don't always pay attention to net profits.
Yeah.
But here's the catch-22, because in 2008, 2008-9, when that big correction happened back then in the market,
right,
we actually did something kind of counterintuitive. We actually increased our marketing dollars, and we had about 90% of our local competitors go bankrupt.
Right.
And so we did a bunch of acquisitions, dirt cheap, almost for free. It's like take over my lease type of stuff, you know? And so if you do have some surplus cash, some powder dry, sometimes it's good to go actually on the offensive during a defensive situation.
Yeah, it's getting that market share.
Yeah, but again, it takes a lot of cash flow to do that.
Yeah, and like we talk all the time, and it's when the times are tough, and the economy is like it is, and now you got to go gain market share, and how are you going to gain that market share? And a lot of it is with our branding, and like we're doing some cool things to be able to do that, to gain some market share back. And there's reports in in our industry that you can figure out what each dealership's market share is of the region, and so going and trying to gain that back. But it does take cash. I mean, it does take money to do it, and that's one thing that is. So I have 5 brands in dealerships.
Wow.
I have the corporate, Haugen RV Group. I have Castle Country RV. I have 2 legacy RVs,
nice.
2 different brands. I have and Funtime RV in Oregon.
Whoa.
And so we're going to rebrand them all to Haugen RV, because now, like, my marketing guy was like, look, marketing is like an uphill battle carrying a piano up some stairs all the time. Like, it is a constant battle.
Can't have too many brands.
You can't have you're carrying 5 pianos, dude. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. Like, and I just been against it because I don't love I love my last name, but it's hard to pronounce.
Yeah.
But he did a market research study on it, and he did whatever he needed to do, and he was like, 90% of people didn't forget the name. That's the most important part.
Yeah.
He's like, Haugen, whatever it is.
Then they know, but they know,
forget
right?
it.
Yeah.
They don't forget it.
They
And
know.
so I'm like, okay, like that's okay. And so now we're, instead of 5 commercials, it's 1 commercial. Instead of 5 different marketing, plans, it's 1 marketing plan. And so I think it's going to be.
You seem laser focused though on RV now, right?
Yeah, right. I am laser focused on the RV. My passion projects are, I've come out with my Culture Camp podcast, which also helps me with the RV dealerships. And then, I'm getting more into speaking and kind of, I've done a lot of like team coaching and executive coaching with my personality. Like I do have personality software and management software and all these things that I've been doing. But I am pretty focused on RVs.
My advice is stay focused, because whenever there's a shift in 8 and 9, and there was a shift in 2001 after 9/11, right? And then in the 90s when I was younger, we had some big shifts. What you see during a lot of that is guys sometimes taking their hands off the steering wheel,
right,
and grasping for straws. Like, think about this. In the last 6 months, how many friends of ours do we know or in our influence circle have started a mastermind?
A lot.
Yeah. And the reason being is their primary businesses are hurting on revenue,
right?
So they're thinking supplemental income,
right?
So they're hustling,
right?
Which is good, and some of them are making a lot of money, but I'd say is like just be careful not to ignore your meat and potatoes business though,
right?
Because that's when you really need to dig in, optimize. Not hey, I'm going to find something else because it's easier, instant cash,
right?
I'm always big into like building omnipresence. Mm-hmm. And doing the podcast like you and me, and just because it gets people educated on what we do, and if we can offer some real value and help, we're probably going to offer that in our businesses to them as well, right?
For sure, yeah.
So that's and what's kind of interesting is I was on this RV hunt before, and I called you up, and I was looking for kind of a weird, strange 4x4 off-road into the world apocalypse unit, and you're like, well, I can refer you to somebody that would actually be great to get you that.
Right.
And so it's pretty cool in that you're not like, well, you should just get one of mine. I mean, you're like, let's find what's right for you, dude.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't, actually, after that conversation, we went to a thing, and I'm like, guys, I think we're going to, this is a big sector. We need to figure out, at least be in business with a manufacturer that carries something that we could actually buy. Like, we don't have to stock them, but we could buy them if someone wanted them. And
crazy apocalypse.
And, I mean, it's thing. Like my mom and dad had one. They had a Sportsmobile. It's a customized Mercedes Sprinter van that was jacked up with big tires and a good time. And it's a big popular thing, especially in Utah, to go up to the Uintas. They go out in the desert. They go down to the national parks.
Can you get the mounted turret option with the armor?
I mean, maybe we could build that. I'm sure
people would buy that.
People
would buy that.
I'm sure. Yeah. There's an armor. I think there's an armoring company in.
This is Utah, man. Everybody has armor and mounted turrets.
For sure.
It's Utah.
Yeah. It's a little barbaric out there.
Especially up north, right?
Yeah. For sure.
You're one of the guys from the north.
Yeah.
We joke though. I have retail locations from north to south here in Utah, and our district manager's like, "Man, people up north, they all got big lifted monster trucks, and they have like shotguns in the back window, man."
Well, the place where your store is at a little bit more of a, it's closer to a little bit more of a rural, more I want to say redneck, but more rural parts of Utah.
Do you know that's funny? Is our far north store is our #1 performing store.
Really?
And like, people like it's not like in a bougie like neighborhood.
It's the one in Riverdale, right?
Yeah. But just high traffic, really nice people,
yeah,
honest people who just want to be taken care of.
Right.
Talk to real humans.
Yeah.
Like personable people.
Yeah. We all we lived up there. I mean, we do live up there now, but I moved a little bit more south. I'm getting closer to south. But we use your store all the time. Yeah. I mean, growing up, that was just where we went and got computers.
It's interesting though, because I've had some. We take demographics of the income levels and different things and traffic levels, and that is not the highest income level particular location in surrounding demographics. I'd say probably maybe like Sandy, Utah, something like that, right? Like in that East Bench Sandy. But what's funny is that little store there does like sometimes double, triple.
Wow.
And the demographics are different. So.
Right. Well, I'm sure you get a lot of return customers on service.
Yeah.
I don't know how that in the I'm completely out of your game, but I'm sure a lot of people in those lower income don't want to go buy another one. They just want to fix it.
A lot of fix, but a lot of just like if I have a question, I want to talk to someone face to face.
Right.
About this.
It is a kind of a good old boy town. I mean, it's that, and there is like in not in the direct close to that store, but in the more surrounding areas like North Ogden and up in the Shadow Valley Bench area, that is a very, very wealthy part of Ogden.
Yeah.
And that all kind of comes down and flows into it.
Yes,
like, I was talking with a friend of ours on a store he's putting out on 12th Street, and the demographic, he was doing all these studies, and he's like tell me about 12th Street, and I'm like, hey, let me tell you about 12th, because I'm from Ogden my whole life, and I was telling him about the different demographics, everything that pulls from Ogden, and he was like, that's crazy. Like every store that they're doing the studies on is the best performing store in the region on that street.
Weird, huh?
Yeah, it's great. But everybody kind of views it as, well, it's Ogden. Well, let me tell you what's surrounding Ogden.
Right.
So, yeah.
That's cool. Graphics are...
Yeah, which I think is important for entrepreneurs, is to know that data. And it's kind of like a fundamental to business of knowing exactly what your customer base is going to want. Kind of like the research that the Walmart does. Mm-hmm. When they go into different cities and they price different items in those cities differently based on the demographics of people. It's strange, but there's something. If Walmart's doing it, these big boxers, there's something to it.
There is definitely something to it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I got to ask you. I'm gonna pivot here. What's the biggest, whooping you've ever taken in your career? I think you've talked about some of that. Is that the biggest whooping, or what's the biggest mistake, and what'd you learn from that? Just, again, you're young, dude. How old are you now?
29.
29, dude.
Yeah.
So like, a lot of the entrepreneurs out there are young people wanting to start companies.
Right.
And you've done it. So, what's the biggest mistake so far of your career? What did you learn from it?
I would say putting all my eggs in kind of one thing, which I know that we kind of talked about, keeping your focus, but not really saving anything and going all in on when it was in the network marketing and losing it, and really not having anything prepared or not knowing what to do. I mean, I just kind of lost everything, and then went and swept those floors. Also gotten pretty beat up and learning cash flow and in the RV dealerships and having those conversations about, hey, crap, like I need, I got to go find $100,000 this afternoon. So calling, making phone calls of trying to find $100,000 that afternoon and paying it back shortly thereafter and playing this game. I'm like, whoa, like there's a lot to learn. And then also, a big lesson is just growing too fast.
Yeah.
Like I know a lot of entrepreneurs just want to get in the game of like grow, and it sounds good to get around our friends group and be like, yeah, I have $100 million company, or last year I grew to $100 million, so I went and got a $200 million company. But like you said, what's the bottom line? And like, what are you going and buying lunch with, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think that some people got to be careful with getting like a little bit over their ski tips a little bit and what they can handle and what the market can handle and what their team can handle. And I've gotten pretty beat up with that. I mean, we grew way fast. I mean, we went from 1 location to 3 locations, and we bought 5 in 1 year.
I know how you feel. That's what I did with retail back in the 90s, It's crazy.
Yeah, so I've gotten pretty beat up with that. I mean,
So you would say, your advice to those out there is just educate yourself on this, and
and just educate yourself. Pay attention to the fundamentals. Get a mentor. Don't think that you have to go from A to Z so fast. Like, and that's a lot with my generation is they think they have to go from A to Z. Like, I see it a lot in like sales teams, and I'm gonna pick on the door-to-door community because we're in Utah, but they'll go have a really good summer, and all of a sudden I'm seeing them buying, an Audi R8, and they're gonna spend all this money and all these things, and I'm like, just like, you don't have to do that, and like try to go from A to Z when you're trying to be like the guy that's been in it for a long time. Like I was talking with my buddy's Jim McMahon, NFL quarterback.
Oh yeah.
And he was like, you go to training camp, and then you get there, and the vet has a Ferrari. So what do you go do with your rookie check? You go buy a Ferrari. And it's like trying to be someone maybe that you're not. And I also, I'm kind of a tangent, but I also was talking with someone the other day, and this kind of impacted me, is never forget why you started. Never forget why you started. And never change who you are and go against your moral code and why you started.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, and we see often sometimes even in our, friends group or, in other places that like who they are and who they were and who they are now are a completely different person. Now you can have a different company, you can grow and mature. I think that's expected, but they're not even the same human being as they were like 2 years ago. And that makes it hard. It's hard on people.
It's funny. We're talking about sports cars though.
Yeah.
Back during COVID, we could make a lot of money buying sports cars.
Yeah, and I flipped a lot of cars.
Yeah, me too. That's what we use for Cars and Coin. That's inventory, right?
Right.
But less than 1,000 miles, enjoy it.
Right.
eBay it, right?
Right.
But what's really interesting though is this. There's so much stuff in social media though that I see out there, and it's kind of like you've been around, you kind of know who's who and what really has what, and doing that. And a lot of it is facade. Mm-hmm. It's like pure front end show.
Yeah.
On that. And what's funny is like, at that our Cars and Coin event, I think there was like 6 billionaire guys that were there.
Right.
And Bridger and I joke. He's like, well, it's only us guy that are in the millions that drive Lambos and stuff like that. But all the billionaire guys drive Ford F-150s.
Yeah, they're rolling up in trucks and
just boring.
Yeah, I think one of my good buddies rolled up in his RV. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, I've been on the road, man. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, this is crazy. And he's like, can I park this up front? And the guy's like, that's probably going to go around the corner. And I'm like, do you know who that is? Like, that's crazy.
That's weird, huh?
Yeah, but it's so true. And I think that, like, I was actually like crazy. I was with David Meltzer yesterday.
Dave's awesome.
And I was actually talking with a lot of people. And like, this is not about me, but like, I'm relatively unknown. Like, a lot of people don't really know me.
You're getting out there now.
Yeah,
you've been getting out there.
I went and built my company, to 100 million before I ever even posted about the company. And like because I didn't want to be that imposter that was like, hey, I'm gonna go, park in front of a rented car and take some pictures and try to be like a business consultant when my only business that I ever built was my business consulting company. And I see that a lot.
There's a lot of guys.
Yeah.
They're trying,
they're trying, which I'm not gonna ever disrespect the hustle, but there's a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it. And now I'm trying to be like, like I had a, Randy Garn, Randy's a good friend of mine, good mentor, and I had a conversation. I'm like, it's hard for me to get like, I feel like I don't have any credibility with anybody because I don't have a, maybe a blue check mark or a bunch of stuff on social media, and like I'm not bragging about the things that I've done. And he's like, it's this hard game, and there's a lot of like, I'm not gonna call them imposters, but there's a lot of people that don't have the history that a lot of other people do, that are trying to be out there to be someone that they're not.
Right now, though, I will give you a reverse piece of advice on this. I wish that when I was in my 20s that I had memorialized accomplishments more, and people that I've helped and relationships that I've built. And so I started doing it actually like 2006 on LinkedIn.
Right.
So when there's like really prominent people you've helped, right? Be proactive and write them a positive LinkedIn review and ask them to do the same if truly you've helped them, right?
Right.
And that goes historical, because once you can punch out 10 years, a decade plus of leaving great things in your wake, you know, instead of dead bodies in your wake.
Yes.
What's crazy though is if you Google like a majority of these influencers, a lot of these guys like have ripped people off, have the feds after them before, charged by the FTC, the SEC, all being sued and all this litigious weird. If there's too much like dead body stuff going on, you're probably the next victim.
Right.
So that's what I always tell younger people is like memorialize the good things that you're doing, stay consistent with your integrity, right? Yeah. And
be who you really are.
Yeah, you give that like a decade or so, then you don't even need to sell yourself, and that they can. I mean, it's all public knowledge, right?
Yeah, I think it's really hard for people to take that long though. But it's just what it takes. Like Like, I've never met anybody that's like, oh, I got everything for free and it was super easy and didn't put in the work. And I think that's a good and bad thing. And I like, we can talk about that for a second, is people only see the product of the last 20 years of work, right? And that's kind of social media. Like, they see you rolling around in a McLaren 720S, it's gorgeous. They see you rolling around in, a Lambo, they see you doing this and doing that, but they don't know the history of, they do because, you tell your story, but like a lot of people don't see that work. Like, oh yeah, I had to do this and this and this and this. Okay, well, okay, that sounds good, but how do I just go from like how do I get over there? How do I buy that? Like, I don't want to put in the work. I wanted to go over here. And I feel like people are trying to navigate and trying to go the easy route, which there are easier ways to do things. Like with technology and different things, like this AI stuff is just wild, blowing my mind. And I don't know much about it, and I'm trying to figure out how I can implement it in my company. But like people are trying to just literally go from A to Z and just, I just want to be you now.
Here's the thing though, when they talk about hard work, you see a lot of these guys saying, you see some influencers say, no one will outwork me. I work 24/7, but no, you don't.
Right.
I believe, at least the highest level entrepreneurs that I personally know, and I measure myself and different high performing people, we really only utilize less than maybe 10% of our daily efforts.
Right.
If you count in sleep and all those kind of things, to actually complete and get things that move the needle.
Right.
The rest is just wasted heat out the chimney flute. Really, but the cool thing is, if someone's working at 7-8%, oh my gosh, you're going to be doing. If you're working over 10% actual output, you're going to be a billionaire, right?
Right.
The difference, though, between someone making millions and hundreds of millions is just a few percentage points.
Right.
So if the average human's working at 3-4%, the millionaire guy's working at 5-6%. The guy who's got hundreds of millions working at 7 or 8, the billionaire's working a little over 10%.
Right.
But at the end of the day, even people like us that have vast businesses, we're spending a lot of our day, thinking about our wife, our kids, our family,
right.
What's going on, our dog.
Yeah.
What am I going to eat for lunch? Hanging out with some friends, socializing.
Right.
And the actual brass tacks about, at least I've thought about, is there's really only maybe a big major financial, physical, and spiritual decision a day.
Right.
Because when you scale to a certain level, you're making a large level of decisions because you got hundreds of employees and they're executing, you're guiding them. And a lot of times, at least I found myself and a lot of entrepreneurs spending our time just being a psychologist to leaders.
Yeah.
Like making them feel okay that their wife is mad at them.
Right.
And I'm like, this is what you need to do. Send her some flowers, be nice, be courteous, hear, listen, be present.
Yeah.
Yeah. Weird that's like, what does a CEO do? It's like, I console vice presidents on domestic issues.
Right.
Yeah, no. You get with your sales guys and managers.
It's so true. Like you sit down and talk to them, hey, how's it going? And they start going, like late, and I'm like, wow. And then, but I do feel like that helps with culture and understanding. Like if you do sit down and have those conversations and you do treat them like that, then I'm sure there's people that are in your position that say, no, don't talk to me about that. It doesn't matter. And then it's like, now what did you kind of trip them up even more. Now they're thinking about, well, he doesn't care about me. My wife's mad at me. I don't know what to do. Now they're working at 2%, right, in your company. But I think that having those conversations and caring, I think it goes a long way in a company. And I would ask you for advice right now. How do you manage that and juggle everything? Okay. Because that's where, like, I actually was having this conversation with a friend on the way down here.
Easy.
And I was telling him
it's everything
actually
easy.
I was doing,
Everything's
and I'm
easy.
like, I don't know how I'm juggling all this.
I'm just a couple DNA chromosome strands above a chimp, but I will tell you it's actually very easy. Okay, so how do I juggle things? First, remember, with employees, you buy the heart, not the hand.
Right.
Really important, right?
So explain that to me.
In that, if people know you care about them and you care about their physical, spiritual, financial outcomes and goals, and you are actually a friend, mentor, guide to help them achieve what they want. So when you hire someone or you have a leader, what do you want, dude?
Right.
I asked the president of one of my companies, Colton, like, what do you want? He's like, dude, I want a big house. I want an electric truck. I want to get my wife a Corvette. I want to have $1 million in my investment account. I want these things. I want to not be fat. He's not fat, but he's like, I don't want to get that way. I want to be mentally stable and have some fun with my friends and stuff. I'm like, okay, let's specifically write that out.
Wow.
So I'm like, okay, well, when I check in with him, right, I ask them, hey, how are you moving towards these goals? And we set tangible things that are measurable results. So on finances, that's easy, like this much money to do this, invest that, right? On physical, weigh this much body fat, get a checkup, your blood pressure, your blood glucose, all that stuff, right?
Right.
Spiritual is a little different, a little more open-ended, because people have different things that serve them there, you know? So what you want to do, though, is dial into that outcome. If they know your main thing is helping them achieve their outcomes, then they will tend to treat like company is not as 9 to 5 clock in, clock out. And I know this because the men and women that I take the time to do that with, take the time to do that with the men and women that report to them.
Right.
And they are never 9 to 5 people. I have employees that will message me on Sunday at like 4 p.m. like a mid-level manager. Hey, I did this. This is really great. I just want to let you know. Like they're proud of that. Yeah. And like I moved towards that. And they'll like group message me and then their supervisor.
I love that.
I'm like, great job, dude. And then the thing is, as a CEO, you can respond to a text message. It's fine. Then they start telling other team members, hey, Dan really cares, and the other managers care, and it's like that's a cultural thing, right?
Right.
So that's really the key. So anybody can make a lot of money selling.
Right.
I joke, you take a guy like me or you drop us in a city, like with broke, right? That year, there's no way we're not going to make a few $100,000 selling something.
Right.
Selling cars or whatever,
Yeah.
selling on the phone, telemarketing, door knocking, anything.
Right.
We'll make money. And within, I don't know, a couple of years, we'll have $1 million.
Right.
Sitting in the checking account, we're going to start another business, right?
Right.
It's because now we know, right, what that outcome needs to be.
Right.
So another rule is, I don't want to go too deep, but never have more than 5 directs. Right? So you get like a CFO type of person, right? You might have a president of your companies, right? You might have a sales VP, you might have a marketing head, and you might have a COO,
right,
type of thing. You might add in like a CMO and a CTO and those kind of things, but a lot of times those people can report to, let's say, your COO and things like that too, because they're usually just a subsection of that, you know?
Right, for sure.
And then for sales teams, I always say 1 prophet, 12 disciples. Like if you have a sales manager, he should never have more than 12 people on his team that he's responsible for, because he can't. It's really hard to babysit the psychology of more than 12 people, let alone 5. You know.
Right.
But if you're on a stretch expansion, you might be hiring guys and girls so fast. Like, okay, do you get 12 now, dude?
Right.
You know, but then you're not having enough commanders. You know. If you don't have that. That's my trick.
So how do you manage all your other things you're doing outside of Zydex and PC laptops?
So real estate is like 75% of my wealth is in real estate.
Right.
So I have a property management company.
Okay.
Who runs all that, and they get paid great off that performance, right? Which is that's pretty self-perpetuating. The hedge fund that I run, I have fund managers who work for me that are handpicked. They just don't know how to deal with the SEC and compliance structure and portfolio management on a grand scale. I understand how to do those things. I have a business partner who understands the compliance bridger, right?
Yep.
And but any sort of major trades or approvals that they do, they can run by me, and I'd be like, no, yes, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. You know? But they're doing like most of the research and the work and all the grind and digging the holes, but you got to be like the architect,
right?
You know, of things. And then obviously, good attorney, critical.
Yep.
And in different matters, you have your pit bull attorney. It's like if you get some psycho trying to litigate against you, you put your pit bull on the guy.
Right.
You got your general counsel. You got your real estate attorney. You got your trust attorney. You have your tax attorney.
Yep.
You better have like different types of attorneys.
Right.
And even if you're small, you can have those because they're not full time.
Right.
It's hourly.
Yeah.
So if you've got a project, then you hire that guy. But I'd be careful about getting a generalist doing too many things.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, we've had to get specialized with HR situations, with real estate situations, entity situations, tax situations, trust situations, MB, like we have a specific guy for MBED, and that's like it's got to be specialized for sure.
Here's
the good thing about it is it's like you said, it's just you pay him per project or pay him per.
You know what happens though after you start delegating too much, you get bored.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely.
I found myself yesterday. This is crazy. I do a lot.
Yeah.
But I sat there and I was bored. And I'm like, damn, I gotta, water the garden a little bit more,
Right.
So what I do, though, if you find yourself having good processes and you have too much free time, though, then I start getting out in the field. I will go to each one of my stores and sell with my salespeople.
Really?
Yeah, I will greet customers, kind of like undercover boss.
Right.
And just see how they're feeling. Go through the repair bay, talk to the warehouse people. Just like go in every role in every one of your organizations and live it.
Right.
Right? Because then you can get a real sense of what your customers are being treated like, what your employees are being treated like. Right?
Right.
And then that actually increases revenue greatly, because then you can actually make intelligent decisions based on what's really happening, not what you think is happening from what's being reported.
Right. No, I love that, dude.
So go out to one of your lots and go sell some RV.
Well, my plan is actually right after this, I'm going to go to my Salt Lake location and hang out for a couple of hours.
You know what's great? Being an entrepreneur is like being a gladiator, I think, and not everyone will agree with this. But when the men see me and women see me go out there with my sword and be on the battlefield with them, and no special armor, just me, just like them, we're engaging, the respect level just goes.
Right.
They're like, oh my gosh, he's so good at that. Because they'll see me go like this much revenue in the same amount of time or less time.
Right.
And they're like, well, that's possible.
Yeah.
Like, why I'm not doing that? I can do that. Yeah. And then they go do it.
Well, I love that leading from the front. And I like that a lot. I think it's important to get out there and be who you are. One time, I had a guy in our organization that was kind of more of an outside voice, a consultant, I guess. And he told me, well, now you got to do this. You got to be professional. You got to be wearing a nice button-up shirt and slacks and all this stuff. So I went and bought all this stuff. So I used to go to the dealership and they'd be like, bro, what? Like who is this? Why? And so it started to be really negative on people that now Jason just thinks he's a big corporate guy and he's doing this and doing that. And like usually I'm the bro that's in a polo shirt and jeans and some Jordans, just kicking it with everybody, having a good time, helping people, helping customers, and I don't look like anything else besides that.
Keep doing that.
Yeah, and like now, I'm gonna go in the sweatshirt and joggers and some Jordans and just be like, hey guys, how's it going? Like, good to see you. And like, I'm glad that I've learned a lot of these little lessons, early on with maybe 1 or 2 locations or 3 locations, and it keep bringing me. But that lady that told me never forget why you started. Like I didn't start to be a big corporate boss, right? Like I started to help people and create an impact in the RV industry, and to be able to grow and scale it. It's like a chess game to me. Like I love, like even when there's
just think about the inspiration to the men and women that work for you when you're in the field with them with the sword.
Yeah, they're going and selling, and like.
It's you're not just pointing, do. You're just like, you're
like,
in the
and it's
field.
like my habit. Like I see customers come in, hey, how's it going? Welcome to like I said, like Haugen RV. I mean Legacy RV. Like it's funny. And like, can I point you in the right direction? Can I point you over here? Can I point you there? Like, what can I do for you? And then they're like, oh, what do you do? I'm just here to help. Like it's funny, and then I'm interested to see what they think or what they say. But I think it's important to be able to have those touch points, right?
I'm going to give you a free $50 million tip here, and for you guys too.
Cool.
The big tipping point for my retail locations is human personality, not only with the employees but with the customer.
Right.
I don't know if you've driven on the freeway and you've seen City Creek Mortgage.
Yep.
So my friend Mike and Toby have that. In 2008, we sat down for sushi, and he goes, how can I be better? I'm like, we got to give you a name, man. He's like, what's that? I'm like, what do you do, mortgages, right, Mike? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, why don't you be Mortgage Mike? Right. So you, on your local advertising, should be in commercials.
Yeah. Yeah,
and just talk about tell your story. This is what you do. This is why we're different. And just say, you'll probably see me once in a while at one of our lots, though, because I love our customers and taking care of you. And then you do even some of the walkthrough tours of the different models. Document that, throw that on YouTube, throw some excerpts of that on the news, on TV and stuff like that, social media, everything like that. And it is so different because so many companies now, again, you think about like Larry Miller dealerships. Mm-hmm. They got huge because Larry. Yeah. Right? Look at Ken Garff dealerships. Staple. Ken Garff. Yeah. But now if you look at a lot of these companies, not saying these two particularly, but they're detached a lot from the original, like...
why they started.
Yeah. A guy, named Jason and his team were taking care of you. Yeah. that's what people want, especially in an RV experience.
Yeah,
and we try to do that with
computer.
fun,
right? I mean, we're not selling a need. Like, it's not like someone just got in the car broke down and they're there and they have to buy the car to survive. Like, we're selling a commodity. Like, we're selling, like, they want it because they want it, right? And we're selling fun. So I like that, and that's a big reason why we're kind of changing the name, or we are changing the names to Haugen RV, because it's my last name, and it's a kind of a stronger, strong name. That's what I'm told by the branding people, and I think it's gonna. They want me doing a lot of more stuff, and I've always been hidden because I don't want it to be about me. Like we have a great team behind us, but I would agree with you that I think that they know me, that there's more of a personal touch, that I care, because our whole thing is like, we're family owned, but if they never see that family, then it's just kind of a saying.
It detaches, and then usually that happens because dealerships end up getting bought out by some big old company, and there's no more family members there,
right?
Because a lot of times the kids don't run it as good as the parents,
right?
They just don't give a crap,
right.
Yeah. And that's like, you see that in a lot.
Yeah, and you see that in a lot of industries. Like, it's funny. So I was talking with, Kalani Michelle. Kalani? She's amazing. She's super in real estate. She's just awesome. She's a lady boss. I had her on my podcast, and we were going through statistics, and I have a less of a statistic to be successful being a second generation entrepreneur than a first generation entrepreneur.
You seem pretty damn hungry.
Yeah.
So I think you're gonna be fine, dude.
Yeah. No. I am. Like, I have such a burning desire to have, to leave a legacy and to impact. I keep saying impact, but I had a good conversation with Tim Tebow one time, and he kept telling me impact, and the impacts that we can make.
But you also have a trait. Entrepreneurship is only for a small percentage of people, really, like less than 5% of people.
Right.
I can feel that you enjoy challenge and pain and overcoming it.
Yeah. And it turns into a game to me.
Yeah.
Okay, call me with the problem. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to figure it out. Yeah. Right? Like, it's like a chess game. Like, okay.
Don't do that with your wife, though.
Yeah, no.
Don't solve her problems.
Yeah, no, yeah. And like, I tell her all the time.
That's my biggest mistake, try solve.
Yeah, well, and I tell her all the time, like, look, hey, when I'm venting, I'm not asking for advice, okay? Like, I have people that I call for my advice. Like I don't want you, like, and so it's funny, we talk about it a lot, debate about it a lot, but then I'm trying to solve, all her problems. She's like, you do the same thing to me. And I'm like, okay, you're
don't
right.
solve your wife's problems.
I'm just sitting here to listen, sitting here to talk, but you're right. Like, I love the game. I love how to put things together. Like, I love making things better, and that's like this year we're talking a lot about stability, and we're not looking to acquire, we're not looking to grow. We want to grow organically, right? Increase sales and really focus on that, and those marketing dollars and maximize.
We're gonna see you in the next commercial.
Yeah.
Bam,
and
dude.
So I wanna stabilize, and now it's like, hey, how can we put the pieces together?
We could do a collab video, maybe. With
we should.
Yeah,
we should.
Because I'll be like, hey, it's Dan Laps, man. We love you.
Yeah.
Anyway, here's my buddy here, and check out this motorhome.
Yeah. No, I would love to, man. I love to. You're
I love
a great
doing
personality,
collabs.
and you know what? Like, it's so cool, and I think you're so right, because you're a huge piece of this brand, and I think that's why. Like, I know, like, and that's kind of coming to me right now, is why the brand and why the culture is so good is because it started from you years and years ago on those commercials, wearing those shirts. And
now my kids are doing it. My son's doing it.
I mean, it's so cool because you are still ingrained in my head every time I go to a movie.
It's burnt in there, man.
Burnt in my head.
People getting kicked in the groin.
Yeah, every time I go to a movie.
The virus guy.
I'm gonna see Dan and the laptop man, like, but it's so cool because I know, I know that you are connected and you're proving it. Like, you're walking the walk. You're not just talking the talk. You're walking the walk. And I almost feel like I'm talking the talk and I'm saying it.
No, you're doing it. You're doing some good revenue and doing good. You're rocking, dude. And 29, you do.
Yeah. I mean, but now it's like the chess game. Right? Now it's putting together.
You got to go a little bit like that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, but I just want to keep getting better. I mean, I got a big desire to do.
Okay, so all these guys and girls are going to want to follow you because you're in your 20s and you're just freaking on fire and can deal with adversity and you're like a rock, man. So, where can people find you, bro?
On Instagram at Jason Haugen. My last name is spelled Haugen, and just my biggest presence on Instagram, Jason Haugen. I also have a Culture Camp podcast. I'm pretty much everywhere where you can listen to your podcast.
Excellent. I'll put some links down below so you guys can find Jason And then do you have people check your messages, or do you look at?
No, it's all me.
Wow,
it's all
me too.
Yeah.
People go, hey, I think I got your bot. No, it's cool. On Instagram, I do my own.
Yeah, on Instagram, it's
email.
all me.
It's just unbelievable. I have my team filter.
Yeah, no, I do all my emails, all my Instagram, all my Facebook messages, my text messages, everything.
That's a lot, dude.
Yeah, no, and I know.
That's a lot.
Yeah, like yesterday when I was gone all day long, I had over 100 text messages, like 50 phone calls, 100 emails, and I was getting blown up because I was getting tagged in all these things in the social media, and so I stayed up till 3 o'clock in the morning answering everything back.
Good work, dude.
Yeah,
Well, I'm trying to hire you a team, though.
Save
you some time.
I know.
All right, guys. You've been watching Dan's Millionaire Code podcast. How much does this podcast cost you? No money. But it does ask. There is a little bit of an ask. And it's one, execute at least a couple of things you've learned today from Jason. Very, very important. And two, just share this so we can help more people in this world. You've been watching Dan's Millionaire Code podcast. We'll see you guys next week.
Thank you.